Hello students, and this is Dr. Shadab. I am Assistant Professor of Psychology from School of Liberal Education, and I will teach Introduction to Psychology paper, and the course code is PSY1001. For today's sessions, it's introductory session. I will explain you today the role of psychology, the definition of psychology, the meaning of psychology, how a common person understands about psychology, how a layman understand about the psychology and uses psychology in their day-to-day life. So that will be a brief introductory session. And for this session, I will explain you about the whole concept of psychology. Okay, what is psychology? A brief history of psychology, and the different, if we talk about significance of psychology in human beings, and how if you talk about what are the differences about between psychologist and a psychiatrist. So a little more about the scope of psychology. Okay, and finally I will conclude this session with if you talk about the facts about psychology, some logical facts about psychology. So let's start. The word psychology has its version in two Greek words, that is one is psyche and logos. The word psyche in Greek language refers to spirit or soul, and the word logos refers to discourse or study. There is a very famous psychologist named called Dr. Sigmund Freud, and he is one of the renowned psychologists, and he has given a lot of contribution to the psychology discipline. So he defines psychology in a very in his own words, in a very simple word, that psychology is a systematic and scientific study of mental processes, experiences, and behaviors, both overt and covert. So he, in this simple, if you talk about definition, he has used three things. Let's talk about, if you talk about uh, the experiences, study of experiences, talk about the study of behaviors, we talk about the study of mental processes. So definitely all these three has a valuable role in the study of psychology. In a very in a very initial stage, when psychology was not in a full-fledged discipline, so it was considered that psychology is the study of soul or the spirit or the atma. But as the discipline moves on, grows on, that statement that if we talk about notion has been declined, that is psychology is the study of soul or spirit. So they have come with a replication of the study of behavior, study of mental processes, study of experiences. So earlier it was a notion that psychology is the study of soul or spirit, but as the discipline grows up, as moves up, it got changed, and it got three categories of study of psychology. Now, one is the study of experiences, second is the experience of mental processes, and if we talk about the experiences. So all these three is the subject domain of psychology. I will explain in the next slide if we talk about how these three things, if we talk about has a meaning, significant, if we talk about with some examples about to make you understand what exactly the psychology is all about. In this slide, I will interest students. I will discuss about a brief history of psychology, right? how the psychology has started, right, in India and in the Western world, how the psychology has started. In modern period, it started at Calcutta University in 1916 with the establishment of the Department of Psychology. In the Western world, the formal beginning of psychology as an independent discipline goes back to 1879 when Wilhelm Wundt established the first experimental laboratory at the University of Leipzig in Germany. Wilhelm Wundt, in fact, is considered as the father of psychology, right? He was the person who has contributed a lot to this discipline, and the psychology got a full place if you talk about exposure and visibility around the globe with the establishment of the first experimental laboratory in Germany, that's in Leipzig. And Wilhelm Wundt was known as the father of psychologist. And in India, if you talk about it started with the, if you talk about in Calcutta, with the University of Calcutta, with the establishment of the psychology department in the year 1960. So this is how in India it has gained popularity as a psychology as a full-fledged discipline. Today, psychology is one of the very popular subjects among social sciences. It studies all the sets of experiences, mental processes, and behaviors. A comprehensive analysis of all these aspects provides a scientific understanding of human nature. So, in social sciences, now psychology is one of the, if you talk about if you talk about subject in the social sciences. The students are, if you talk about very having a lot of, if you talk about interest, having a lot of, if you talk about uh, craze that they choose a psychology as a subject, right? And they have, if you talk about a lot of notion about being a psychologist, they can do a lot of good things. They can help other people who are in distress, who are in, if you talk about uh, not comfort zone, because it deals with the behavior, and the psychologist always deals with, if we talk about, to assist the persons who are having some kind of a stress, some kind of depression, some kind of abnormal behaviors, right? So deals with the psychologist always facilitate them to come to make the client in such a position that they can do their daily routine works in their own way. So psychologist today is one of the very popular subject, and it is gaining, if you talk about worldwide recognition, and we know because in a very common layman language we can say that everybody here uh, wants to understand about the psyche of a person, right? And because once we understand the psyche of the other person, you are able to understand a good behavior, a good, if you talk about understanding with the other person. So the role of psychology is very important in our day-to-day life, in our, if we talk about professional life, in our social life, and it can gain, if we talk about, it can give you an edge to understand about the human mind, about the human behavior in a very fantastic way. Students, if you talk about in psychology, we already discussed about the study of experiences is a part of psychology domain. So psychologists study a variety of human experiences which are mainly personal or private in nature. The study of such experiences helps the psychologist to understand the personal world of the individual. Why we say that psychology also study the experiences? Because we know about every individual has a coming from a different background, from different, if we talk about educational background, from different, if we talk about family background, and every family has a different, if we talk about values, and their parents nurture their students, sorry, the parents nurture their, if we talk about sons or daughter in a very their own cultural ways, right? They nourish their students in a very different their sons or daughter in a very different manner. In that way, if we talk about the way we have been nourished by our parents, the way we have been socialized in the society, and the way we have been got education in a educational institution, that's also makes a person, I mean, a lot of altogether a very different experiences. So psychology always deals with the different kind of experiences, different kind of, if we talk about events which a person's influences, right? Somebody is very, if we talk about aggressive, somebody is is very, if we talk about cool, calm, somebody is very, if we talk about high achiever, somebody is very, if we talk about fast learner, somebody is slow learner. Is there a variety of things are there which makes a person, if you talk about a complete person, I mean. So every individual has a different kind of experiences in their life, and they see the world in a very different manner, and every individual has a different kind of self concept. Matlab, the way they knows about himself, means their inner soul, if we talk about what he is and how the other person react. So every individual is very different, and every individual has a different kind of experiences in their life, and the psychology always deals with those kind of experiences which the individual feels. So every individual has their own world, every individual has their own inner world. They think, they react in a such a fashion. So psychology always deals with those kind of, if you talk about, study those kind of experiences, right? Because it's a very different, altogether is very different. In fact, if you talk about when there is a problem, means somebody, students, somebody is going through some trauma, some distress, some depression, right? So the psychology when deals this kind of people, individual, is always the therapy is the maybe the same, but the intensity of the, if you talk about sessions, may be different. If you talk about means it's all depend upon the severity of the problem, the individual experiences, right? And it's all depend upon the way the client, if we talk about support to the psychologist. So in that way, if we talk about while dealing with the different kind of abnormal experience, abnormalities, the psychologist always has a, if we talk about sees individual differences while dealing with the problems. It's because of this only. So in A, we always already discuss about the study of experiences. In the second, if we talk about, we discuss about the psychology also deals with the mental processes. So psychology as the study of mental processes such as perception, learning, remembering, and thinking. These are internal mental activities which are not directly observed but inferred from the behavioral activities of the person. So psychology not deals only with the behavior but also the mental processes. So whatever mental processes which we do in our day-to-day life, I mean talking about thinking, learning, perception, logic and reasoning, whatever acts which we do with through our mental processes, right? That's part of the psychology domain. But and that is also comes under the, if we talk about uh, covert behavior, because this is unseen. We react, we do, we act according to our mental functionings, right? According to our logic and reasoning, according to our perception, according to our if we talk about our own experiences, right, through the mental processes. So all the mental processes which we do, that's also the part of the, if we talk about subject domain of the psychology. And if you talk about, it comes under the uh, covert behavior, means which is unseen, because behavior whatever we a person do, it's already visible, but all the mental functioning which we do, right, that's unseen, but that is also part of, if we talk about psychology domain. So memory, perception, logic and reasoning, if we talk about language, right, emotions, because we feel only, right, but we don't react on that. So that is how we talk about all the unseen mental processes which we do in our day-to-day life. That is also part of the psychology and the subject domain of psychology. C, C is if we talk about which we talk about is study of behavior. The range of behaviors studied in psychology is very broad. It includes simple reflexes, example eye blinking, common response patterns such as talking to friends, verbal reports about feelings and internal states, and complex behaviors such as handling computers, playing piano, and addressing a crowd. These behaviors are either observed directly through naked eyes or are measured through instruments. So psychology also deals with the study of behavior. So there are three things which this psychologist, if we talk about, deals with. Number one, if we talk about the experiences, study of experiences. B, study of mental process. C, study of behavior. So all the behaviors which we do in our day-to-day life, that's part of the, we talk about subject domain of the psychology. So always psychology deals with the all the three. If we talk about things, the study of behavior, the study of mental process, and the study of experiences. And it's always depend upon individual variances. Means there are always individual variances are there. In this slide, students, I will let you know about the basic understanding about the psychologist, the role of psychologist, and the role of psychiatrist. What is the difference between the two? In educational wise, if you talk about background wise, if you talk about the psychologist is having MA in applied psychology, maybe clinical psychologist, right? Maybe industrial psychologist, right? And if you talk about or MPhil in clinical psychologist, or if you talk about a PhD in clinical psychologist, that comes under the, they can deals with the, they can treat as a if you talk about as a psychologist, you can treat them as a psychologist. But a psychiatrist, if you talk about, there are MBBS, there are doctors, there are many. If you talk about major one difference between the two is psychiatrist always deals with the, if you talk about patients, while by giving them some kinds of, if you talk about drug prescription, right, valuable prescription. But a psychologist is never, if you talk about, they are not liable to give any kind of, if you talk about medicine, right? Because psychologist always deals with these different kind of behaviors, different kind of, if you talk about therapies, right? They deals with the abnormal behaviors with different kind of therapies like CBT, like REBT. CBT is cognitive behavior therapy, and REBT is rational emotive behavior therapy. So these are the therapies through talk therapy, through if you talk about free association, many therapies are there through which the psychologist deals with the abnormal patients by assisting them with different kind of therapies. But psychiatrist always deals with the different kind of medicine because he is a MBBS doctor, right? So he deals with the, if we talk about the abnormal patients with giving some kind of drugs, some kind of prescriptions, right? In addition to that, with the help of the, if we talk about the psychologist, they treat them altogether, the patients in a very, if we talk about, smooth way. So psychologists and psychiatrists work together to help people with mental health conditions, but they are not quite the same. Okay, so a psychologist treat a patient through psychotherapy, helping to relieve symptoms through behavioral changes. And the role of the psychiatrist, who is a medical doctor, focus more on prescribing medication and other intervention to manage mental health conditions. So there are basic two differences are there, because psychiatrist always deals with the, if you talk about some kind of drug, some kind of prescription, but psychologist deals with the some kind of therapies, some kind of behavior therapies, right? So which they deals with the abnormal patients. The mind is highly complex, and conditions that relate to it can be hard to treat. Thought process, emotions, memories, dreams, perceptions, and so on cannot be seen physically, like a skin rash or heart defect. While physical signs of some mental health issues can be observed, such as the plaque that develop the Alzheimer's disease, many theories of psychology are based on observation of human behavior. A practicing psychologist will meet with patients, carry out assessment to find out what their concerns are and what is causing any difficulties, and recommend or provide treatment, for example, through different kind of, we talk about psychotherapy. So uh, if we talk about mind is very complex, right? We have a lot of emotions. So when there is a trauma, the physical symptoms is not seen. You can see some kind of symptoms like physically depressed, right? I mean, low down means the emotion through physical appearance, through faces and all. But the whatever, if you talk about deep within, if you talk about heart, which is going on, the person which is suffering from some kind of event, some kind of trauma. Let's have example about somebody. If we talk about, there is a lot of separation pain, right? When somebody is from the close one, maybe your father, your siblings, their sons or daughter, anybody goes, if we talk about death, right? So that has a separation, if we talk about very huge, if we talk about separation pain, and that goes on, if we talk 1 month, 2 months, 3 months to 5 6 months to recover on it, to come back on their own life. right? So that is, if you talk about, that's kind of mental trauma, that kind of mental stress people deals with, if you talk about. So it's not only the separation pain, there are many things are there. There are many huge if you talk about stress situation is going on in the corporate world, in our day-to-day life, in our social relationships. So psychologist deals with those kind of emotion which is unseen, right? But that has a, if you talk a tremendous impact in your personality. So the psychologist, human mind is a very complex, if you talk about a brain, and if you talk about, it is having, if you talk about different kind of distress in their mind, right? And that need to be tackled in a very, if you talk about delicate way. And for this, definitely a person who is suffering from kind of trauma, some kind of distress, they need to seek to the help of professionals. If you talk about facilitator, I mean the psychologist or the psychiatrist. So it's a very important field, right? It's a very, if you talk about emerging field in the social sciences discipline, that which deals with the human behaviors, because it's a very typical, it's very complex if you talk about things to understand, and dealing with those kind of things is not easy. So definitely when a person suffering from some kind of trauma, some kind of distress, some kind of depression, he or she needs to go for some kind of psychological, if you talk about, help on that. Students, in this slide will conclude the, if you talk about the whole session, the conclusion, and I will do it in a pointer ways. Number one, if you talk about in concluding, psychology is the study of behavior and the mind. There are different types of psychology, such as cognitive, forensic, social, and developmental psychology. And all these different kind of branches of psychology will definitely discuss in different sessions. Third, if we talk about a person with a condition that affect their mental health may benefit from assessment and treatment with a psychologist. So definitely, if somebody is suffering some kind of trauma, some kind of stress, some kind of depression, he or she needs to go for professional help with a meeting, by meeting with the, if we talk about, with a psychologist or psychiatrist. Fourth, a psychologist may offer treatment that focuses on behavioral adoption. So a psychologist that can treat with different kind of trauma, or if you talk about stress, with focus on behavioral adaptation, means some kind of, if you talk about, therapies to facilitate them, the patient, to make them at ease, to make them as a comfort zone, to move, come out with the, if you talk about, difficult situations. A psychiatrist is a medical doctor who is more likely to medical management of mental health issues. So if we talk about in the whole session, if I can conclude that, we can say that if we talk about psychology, which started late in a very initial stage at the study of soul or the Atma, is decline, and over a period of time, that's how the discipline grows up. It comes with a notion that psychology deals with the study of the behavior, right? All kind of behaviors. But again, if you talk about, as the discipline grows up, they understand that psychology is not only study of the pedagogical behavior but also the mental processes, that is covert and overt behavior. And apart from that, if you talk about all the experiences in the a person's life which is happening, right, whether bad, good or bad, that is also part of the, if you talk about, psychology domain. And if we talk about in concluding remarks, we can say that psychology is a very, if we talk about innovative subject, right? And it deals with the brain, with the psyche, with the behavior, with the, if we talk about, mental processes, with the, if we talk about, experiences, and it's very easy. If we talk about, we can understand the other person's, the logic and reasoning, the way he behave, the way we act. So it's facilitate a person to make the other person to react in a such a fashion. So the role of psychology in the, if we talk about, in the emerging field, in the area of, if we talk about the corporate houses, in the, if we talk about developmental sector, in the, if we talk about educational institutions, right, is very huge. So we cannot deny the importance of psychology. That's all. Thank you.